Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the much anticipated sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think I speak for most people when I say when we first heard about a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, not many people outside of the die-hard Marvel fan base knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Then we got a movie that revolved around them, and it turned out to be a really awesome, kick-ass movie that some consider the best movie in the MCU. And we all know when a movie is that successful and that well-received, you know it's going to get a sequel. Now said sequel is finally here, and now I'm finally going to talk about it with you guys. And as always, that is my official spoiler warning. If you haven't seen... That's a joke. You've seen this movie by now. Come on. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So the movie opens up. You see the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're prepared to take on this giant shark tentacle alien thing. And right out the gate, you can tell the movie is going for the same kind of tone that it's set with the first one. You know, there's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of sarcasm going on between the group. You can tell the group is starting to work well together as a team. But also at the same time, I started to get the feeling that the movie is probably going to harken back a little too much to Guardians of the Galaxy. I say that in the fact because in the opening credits, when the Guardians are fighting off this alien, you see little baby Groot. He's dancing to some music as the credits are rolling, which is exactly the same thing as the first one opened up, just with Star-Lord. And yeah, you can absolutely tell the movie's trying to do that to get you to laugh, and in the first one, it made you laugh because it was kind of random, it was silly, and here, you know, you've seen it again, it's just like, yeah, this isn't as funny as the first one. And that's one of the issues with this movie as a whole. A lot of the jokes that they use, a lot of the comedy that they use, a lot of the stuff that they bring out about each of the characters, it's not as fresh. Because not many people had heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy. When we saw what these characters were like, when we saw what this world was like, we were like, oh, holy shit, this is so mind-blowing, this is hysterical, this is awesome. But now that we've seen the first one, when we see all this again, it's like, well, this is nice, but we expect this now. It has you saying, alright, can you show us a little bit more, some stuff that we haven't already seen? And when you're not really getting it all that much, it is a little bit of a bummer. So anyways, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they stop this alien, then they meet with these gold people who hired them to stop that alien because it was trying to take the batteries, and it turns out Rocket decided to take some for himself because, you know, he's a greedy little shit. And getting into these gold people right now, I thought from the trailers that they were going to be the main villains of this movie, like they were going to be the ones trying to take down the Guardians. And I'm gonna tell you, these characters, they didn't need to be in this movie at all. These gold people, they show up for a grand total of about maybe 3 scenes, and when you look at the scenes that they are in, you ask yourself, were they really necessary? And in my opinion, they weren't, so it kind of has you sitting there like, you know, what's the point of these guys right here? But anyways, they do discover that Rocket took some of their batteries, so they shoot down Star-Lord's ship. They end up crash landing on this planet. And then on this planet, they run into a man named Ego, played by Kurt Russell, who reveals to them all that he is Peter Quill's dad. I will say, this is an area where I thought the movie really picked up, and I started having some fun with it. Because we discover that Ego is basically this godlike being. He spent his life, you know, just traveling from planet to planet to discover his purpose. When he got to Earth, he met Peter's mother Meredith. They fell in love. He impregnated her. He wanted Yondu to bring Peter to him, but Yondu never did. And so for a while, when you see Peter discovering the powers that he has inside him because of Ego, and you see the two of them sort of, you know, bonding father and son, it's really nice to see. Also on this planet, you meet Mantis. She was that green alien feeling reading thing that you saw in the trailers. She and Drax, they're kind of bonding in their own special way. I say special way because, you know, Drax is just a really honest person who doesn't really understand metaphors or anything like that. It's really funny seeing how those two try to connect with each other. And also at the same time, Nebula, who the Guardians rescued from the Gold People, she and Gamora, they've started, you know, talking to each other a little bit more. We really do hear discover just how much trouble Nebula had gone through. You really do see the hatred and the jealousy she has towards Gamora in the fact that Gamora was Thanos' favorite daughter, and because Gamora would please Thanos so much more than Nebula would please Thanos, Thanos just so badly abused and fucked up Nebula that it's led to Nebula just having such a hatred, not just towards Thanos, but towards Gamora. You feel for Nebula in seeing the fact that she felt like she was the black sheep of their family, and also in the fact that you really do see here just how much of a dick Thanos is, because of all the torture and the suffering that he bestowed on Nebula, simply because she wasn't maybe as good at something as Gamora was. But now getting to Rocket and Baby Groot, the two of them, while they were repairing the ship, they get captured by Yondu and his gang. Yondu was hired by the Gold People to recapture the Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's also at this point that Yondu is mutinied by his crew because they feel he's becoming too soft. And what I loved seeing here is you discover that Yondu, he's maybe not as much of a hard ass as he was in the last movie. You can tell it in the fact that he doesn't really want to do anything wrong to the Guardians of the Galaxy because he really does have a soft spot for Quill. Eventually, Yondu, Baby Groot, and Rocket, they're eventually thrown into the brig on the ship. But eventually, Yondu is able to get a new headpiece that allows him to control that really cool magic bow that he has. The three of them eventually escape, and Yondu literally just uses his bow to take out the entire crew. It's pretty awesome. Especially when we can actually use the bow to just blow up the entire fucking ship. But it's after the three of them escape, Rocket explains to Yondu that they are on this planet where Peter Quill is bonding with Ego. And it's here where Yondu realizes, uh-oh, that's not good. Because back on the planet, Mantis has tried warning Drax that the Guardians of the Galaxy need to get off the planet. Nebula and Gamora have discovered a lot of these corpses on this planet. Which now has you start wondering, alright, what's really going on with Ego over here? And now it's at this point that Ego has explained to Peter Quill, you know, what their destinies are as these great beings, you know, what Peter's powers really are. That he actually tells Peter what his true purpose is. Ego's plan was, as he was traveling to all these different planets, to plant these seeds onto them, so that way he could eventually terraform them all into, you know, extensions of himself, so eventually he could control the whole universe. Ego knew, however, that the only way he could terraform these planets is if he had someone else with him who had his powers, and the only way that could happen is if when he traveled to each of these planets, he impregnated a woman from each of these planets to have a child that would have his powers. That was exactly why Ego had Yondu go out to collect all the children from these planets, bring them back to him so he could discover if they had his powers. If they didn't, he would kill them. And right there is exactly why Yondu didn't bring Peter Quill to Ego, because he didn't want Peter to die. It's at this point, however, Ego has kind of started brainwashing Peter into going along with this plan a little bit, until he brings up his mother. Ego reveals to Peter that his love for his mother got him so sidetracked from his plans that he had to do away with her, and that's why he planted that tumor into her brain, which eventually killed her. And that right there just snaps Peter out of Ego's control, and yeah, he does what anyone would do. Whips out his guns all like, son of a fuck you. And now we get a battle between the Guardians of the Galaxy, Ego, and also those gold people have come back to destroy the Guardians of the Galaxy, because, you know, this movie feels they still need to be here. But what I really love right here is you see now that Star-Lord has, you know, sort of developed the powers that he has inside him because of Ego. And it's really cool just seeing these two throw down. It really is like seeing two gods go at it with each other. And, you know, the battle, you know, it's entertaining, it's action-packed, it has its humor. Especially that moment, you know, Rocket constructs that bomb because he's going to use it to plant into the planet's brain, which will destroy Ego. And, you know that scene in the trailer, he's explaining to Baby Groot, it's like, alright, you have to go into the planet's brain, you gotta put it there, you gotta activate the bomb, but don't push this button. And Baby Groot's just all like, I am Groot. It's like, yeah, we all saw that moment in the trailer a bunch of times, but it's still really cute and funny, so works for me. And eventually Yondu shows up, he joins the fight against the gold people and Ego. Unfortunately though, the planets are now all starting to terraform, which is just gonna destroy all life on these planets. Thankfully, Baby Groot reaches the planet's brain, he activates the bomb, and just as the Guardians are about to escape, they know that Peter Quill is still doing battle with Ego. They need to save him, but they know if they do, they're probably gonna die. And it's right here at this moment, Yondu steps up and he says, no, you all get out of here, I'm gonna go save Quill. I need to do this. So yeah, the planet that is Ego, you know, it's being blown up, he's dying, and in this moment, Yondu comes and he saves Peter, and he's just flying him out of the planet's atmosphere, you know, trying to get him to safety. It's right here in this moment we get hit with what is easily the most emotional moment throughout this movie. As Yondu is saving Quill's life, he just looks at him and he says, Ego may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. You always have been and always will be my boy. You just hear those lines, you're just like, oh, right, the feels. Yondu is able to get Quill to safety, but unfortunately he's exposed to outer space for too long, and eventually Yondu just dies. And as sad as the moment is, it's really nice to see it in the fact that you watch the first movie, you saw that Yondu was kind of a dick with Peter, you know, kind of being all like, oh, you owe me because I saved your life. And then you really see in this movie just how much he cares for Peter Quill, and just really seeing the fact that he went so far as he did because he felt like he was more of a father to Peter than Ego was. It's even in the moment where the Guardians have that big funeral for Yondu, Peter's just saying in that moment, it's like, I really did have an awesome dad. Yondu was my dad. So the movie ends with the Guardians having this big funeral for Yondu with all of his fellow Ravagers showing up, seeing just how great of a Ravager he truly was, in light of the fact that he gave his own life to save Peter's. It's also in this moment you see that Nebula and Gamora, they kind of, you know, make up with each other. They decide, alright, we are not each other's enemies. Thanos is our enemy, and Nebula sets out to fulfill her promise to kill him. And then, of course, we get actually a few post-credit scenes. You know, some are mid-credit, some are post-credit. You see one with Groot now kind of in a teenager form. It has me now thinking that in the next movie, we're going to see him back to his adult form. And you also discover that the Gold people are apparently building this being to take down the Guardians of the Galaxy, which they're calling Adam. I have absolutely no idea what it is, but I'm intrigued to find out. And then in the post-credit scene, you see Stan Lee talking with these aliens as apparently a watcher, which some fans have started speculating that that's why Stan Lee appears in all of these Marvel movies, because his being technically exists in every single universe and is just timeless, so that's why he ends up being in all these movies. That's what I heard anyway. I actually think that could be pretty funny. So all in all, I do think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was a really good movie. The Guardians, they all work great together. I really loved Yondu in this movie. I thought Kurt Russell did a great job as Ego. The movie looks great visually. There's no denying that. The action when it happens, it is a lot of fun. The humor when it hits, it does hit. I did like what they did with Nebula's story and seeing that she was someone who was really abused, and you really do see the damage behind her. I love that this movie's soundtrack continued that streak of playing classic rock music. That wasn't a bad thing. That being said, not all of the humor hits. There are some jokes that fall flat. The movie, again, it just doesn't feel quite as fresh as Guardians of the Galaxy did. And while I did like Kurt Russell as Ego, Ego is still not the most memorable villain in the MCU. And like I said, those gold people, they were wasted. They didn't need to be in this movie. And in the end, no, this movie's definitely not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy. There are even some fans out there who will say that this is the worst movie in the MCU. I don't think I can go that far with it, although I do understand where they are coming from with that. This movie is kind of across the board with a lot of people. There are those who love it. There are those who don't really love it. I wouldn't go so far to say that I loved this movie, but I did really enjoy this. I did have a great time with it, and I'm of course looking forward to seeing what else the Guardians of the Galaxy do in the future. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.